It's not new for us to see teams struggling to find the right pieces to surround their superstars. Well, we've seen it before when the Cavs thought that aging star big men were the keys to helping a young LeBron James, when in fact, it was an elite perimeter player who brought out the best in him. And to this day, the Philadelphia 76ers process is still ongoing because they're having a hard time finding the right fits to surround Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. While Luka Doncic just led the Dallas Mavericks to the best offensive season in NBA history, and with the potential of a fully healthy Kristaps Porzingis back next season, the sky's the limit for this Mavs team. And believe it or not, they are already legit championship contenders for a lot of reasons. But the team still has obvious weaknesses which hinders them from entering the Western Conference's elite, particularly their defensive lapses. And their first round loss against the Clippers fully exposed those weaknesses and what it cost the team. But the good news for Dallas fans is that Mark Cuban and the front office have already seemingly figured out what they need to do. They have finally got over their identity crisis on the way to finding the right fits beside Luka and KP to utilize their strengths. And the recent moves this offseason are a big proof of that. Well, they drafted a couple of athletic wings in Josh Green and Tyler Bay, then they also acquired a dead-eye shooter in Tyrell Terry. Well, all those guys will surely help the Mavs in the long run, but to me, trading Seth Curry to the Sixers for Josh Richardson was the real win-now move here. And I think that it just sealed the deal for the Mavs in a big way, and that's what we'll talk about here. So, what's good guys, it's Reroballs in here, and in this video, we'll talk about how landing Josh Richardson instantly helped Luka Doncic and the Mavs increase their championship ceiling next season, and why having a third option like him might actually be better than having an actual third star. Let's get to it. Luka Doncic has been unreal so far and is looking more and more of a generational talent, there's no question. Well, there's a lot of fuzz about him winning the MVP next season as the betting odds suggest, and that just actually might happen for all we know. But the Mavs have to think beyond that if they're going to win next season. Yeah, Luka can carry much of the load because of his excellent offensive capabilities, but for real, the Mavs need to address needs on the defensive end and their need for a secondary playmaker to lessen the load off Luka a little bit. Well, despite having the best offensive season in NBA history, the Mavs only had the 18th best defense in the league. And when you have guys like Seth Curry and Tim Hardaway Jr. trying to guard Paul George, or you get Maxi Kleber trying to contain Kawhi Leonard in the paint, it's really going to be a problem, and we've seen that in the Clippers series. Well, that only makes us think, what if the Mavs had just a little bit more help on the defensive side of things? Could they have contained Kawhi a bit better? Because honestly, Kawhi just torched the Mavs defense in the first round as the guy averaged 32.8 points per game on almost 58% shooting, and that's just a huge part of why Dallas lost. And well, you can argue that they would have done much better if Porzingis was fully healthy. Well, yeah, they would definitely have closed the gap a little, but whether they would have won without a real primary defender to stop Kawhi is still a big question mark to me. But yeah, for the record, Luka can definitely play defense unlike what most people are saying, but mostly, Rick Carlisle has been making him guard secondary playmakers. And I think that is just the right thing to do because you don't want your primary offensive weapon wasting his energy on every defensive possession. And also, last season, Luka Doncic ranked second in the entire NBA in touches per game and in drives per game. Well, of course, he needs to have the ball in his hands most of the time because he's just that talented of a playmaker and shot creator. But if he'll continue to do that almost all throughout the entirety of games next season, chances are his efficiency will suffer and defenses will start to figure out better ways to guard him. And Kristaps isn't necessarily the type of star who you would expect to constantly create shots by himself either. And this is where you see the Mavs' glaring need for secondary playmaking. And yeah, credit the front office for identifying these problems and trying to address them this offseason. And well, I think the Mavs finally figured out that they need to move on from finding guys in the mold of Seth Curry and look into finding more of the wing defender type of guys, while of course looking for a secondary ball handler. And that is what mainly pushed them to draft those athletic wing defenders, and of course, that's why they traded for Josh Richardson. Well, to me, this trade is a big win for Dallas. I think Richardson just checks most, if not all of the boxes that you would want for a guy beside Luka and KP. Yeah, it's easy to worry about the departure of Seth Curry and how he's been an instant offense kind of guy, but overall, Richardson is the tools to bring out the best in the Mavs on both ends of the floor. Well, a lot of people are forgetting that during the 2019 offseason, the 76ers gladly executed the sign and trade to land this guy, and in exchange, they sent Jimmy Butler to Miami. Well, of course, that trade didn't age well for the Sixers with Butler carrying the Heat team to the finals. Well, at that time, the Sixers thought that Jimmy was the problem and they saw Richardson's play with Miami going to an upward trajectory. And people even praised Philly for landing this guy in exchange for Butler. Well, that's just how great he was in Miami. At that time, Richardson was a 25-year-old guy who wasn't necessarily a star but was a very high-value two-way player who was just projected to get better and better. But fast forward to this offseason, what has actually happened to Richardson in Philly that drastically changed his value? From a guy who was somewhat at par with Jimmy Butler just a year ago to somewhat equal to Seth Curry as of the moment. Well, the answer is simple. Richardson just became a victim of the Sixers' own identity crisis. Well, they were a team with two legit superstars but had a lack of outside shooting. And if you have a setup like that, you just can't put a good shooter like Richardson and expect him to instantly fix their system. Well, to put it simply, he was expected to be an instant sniper for a team who had no other reliable outside shooters, and as a result, his efficiency suffered because defenses already knew how they were about to utilize him game after game. And this is why I think the change of scenario is ideal for both him and the Mavs, because for real, he was expected to shoot the lights out in Philly for a team without other great shooters, and now he's on a team that has attempted the second most threes in basketball ever. And he came from a team who lacked a real primary scoring threat, and now he's with a great offensive initiator in Luka Doncic. So yeah, you get the picture here. Richardson will thrive in Dallas more than he has done in Philly. But how exactly will he do that? Well, first things first, on the defensive side of things, he'll be an outright solution as the Mavs' primary on-ball defender right from the get-go. Unlike Dorian Finney-Smith, who usually defends bigger wings, Richardson will be best suited to defend the opposing team's primary ball handler right from the point of attack. And this just gives Luka, Finney-Smith, and the rest of the team a lot more leeway defensively. Well, Richardson ranked 5th among all shooting guards in defensive real plus-minus during his last season in Miami, and although that dipped a little in Philly, his rating is still above the league average. Well, the numbers don't lie, as Richardson has averaged 1.1 steals and almost a block in 30 minutes per game in his entire career. So yeah, this guy's just going to be active on the floor doing all those kinds of things that helps teams win games. And I think that if KP comes back healthy and they get rolling next season, Dallas should be an above average defense at least with Richardson in the starting lineup. Also, this guy will be the secondary playmaker and ball handler that Dallas has been looking for. We know how much Rick Carlisle loves running the pick and roll, and Richardson should thrive in it. Well, last season in Philly, the guy played for a system which seemingly hated running that play, and still, he was the 76ers leading pick and roll scorer and initiator in a team without proper spacing. So just imagine what this guy can do in a team with Luka Doncic on the wing. Also, last season, no other player in Dallas other than Luka averaged more than 4 assists per game. While in his last season in Miami, Richardson averaged 16.6 points and 4.1 assists while ranking 2nd in touches on that team. So you know that this guy can initiate offense without necessarily slowing down Luka's production. And finally, if we look at his fit as a floor spacer for the Mavs, well, I think he would fit just fine. Of course, he isn't as good a shooter as Seth Curry, but I think the gap between them is very minimal in a basketball sense. Well, Dallas really needs to surround Luka with efficient catch-and-shoot guys because that's how they're going to be effective with Luka's drive and kick game. Well, if you look at it, last season, Richardson shot 35% of his catch-and-shoot threes in Philly, which isn't bad, but I think he could have done better if he didn't play in a team with no real spacing. But during his last 2 seasons in Miami, the guy actually shot almost 39% on catch-and-shoot 3-point situations, and that's exactly what Luka can work with. You can just bank on Doncic to get this guy tons of open looks and to help him increase his percentages, the same way he has helped increase Dorian Finney-Smith's 3-point rate from 31% to 38% last season. So yeah, Seth Curry was valuable to this Mavs team, but I think Richardson has got more tools to improve everyone else on the team. Yeah, Seth Curry's contract was a little cheaper by around $3 million, but Richardson is only locked up for 1 year. He has a player option next offseason, and if he chooses to decline that, the Mavs will be able to free their cap space to sign a big name free agent next offseason, whoever that might be. Or if things work out, they can even convince Richardson to sign a more team-friendly deal for them to be able to sign another valuable free agent while still keeping him in the process. And they just can't do that if they were stuck with Seth Curry's deal, which still has 2 years guaranteed remaining. And that's also why I think the Mavs really played this well. Because even if Richardson chooses to exercise his player option in 2021, they'll just have to pay him around $16 million. Well, yeah, that's quite a significant amount, but if they are able to unload some salaries here and there via trade, they'd still have enough cap room to sign him together with another max-level guy. And that situation would be the most ideal one for Dallas to strengthen the team's championship campaign. Well, yeah, the Mavs are aware just how good Luka Doncic is, but they also know that he can't be as great if he's not surrounded with the right pieces. What started out as a frontcourt overhaul with Porzingis, Dwight Powell, and Maxi Kleber to accommodate Luka's screen and roll abilities have now shifted into remodeling the Mavs perimeter group, and I think that just puts them in a better position to win. And yeah, Josh Richardson isn't the third star that most people wanted them to have, but realistically, he's the best third option that fits them out there. We might have to wait until next season to see if someone bigger is coming to Dallas, but for now, I think the Mavs have got enough pieces to win more next season. And with a generational talent like Luka leading your team, you just never know. And with him and KP just starting to figure things out, I think there's a possibility that they might not even need a real third star at all in the future. Thank you guys for sticking until the end of the video, and feel free to drop a comment below about what you think of the Mavs off-season moves so far. And also, if you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button because it helps the channel a lot to be noticed by other fans around the NBA YouTube community. Also, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet because you don't want to miss another fire NBA content which I put out regularly. So again, this is Balls, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.